Oh, nation, it's time to take another walk through the park of mediocrity. Yes, it's time for another band review. It's now time for me to once again talk about a band where a lot of misunderstanding occurs, where a lot of feelings occur. It's time to talk about Asking Alexandria. Now, ever since these guys have come to be, they have been the significant talk of the metalcore, deathcore community. And the emo community too. Let's be honest. You don't want to admit it, all of you fans, but yeah, that little faction is in there too. You cannot avoid it. So you might wonder, why are you even doing this? Well, because it's finally time. It's finally time for me to speak about this band. Now, do I have a really big problem with this band? Not really. And the reason why is because it's gotten to the point now where I have been able to desensitize myself enough and know when to keep my distance that some of these things just sort of happen by mistake, where I stumble upon these bands that just kind of draw my ire. This is one that I had in my crosshairs a while ago, and has recently resurfaced because of a comment that somebody made while I was checking them out at the store today. Somebody was commenting about, I believe it was Mayhem Festival, or some festival that came through, and they were praising Slipknot and Asking Alexandria as though they were the two greatest things to come out of music ever. As though if these came after sliced bread would look like chopped liver. No. Now, why is it that may be? I mean, why is it that it seems like this concept or idea seems like such a foreign and terrible thing to me? Am I just that old? No, not really. It's just simply because what's being praised is a poor man's version of other genres of music that's done much better, by the way, by a lot of other groups. And I will explain a little bit more in detail shortly. For those of you who don't know, Asking Alexandria is considered to be a metalcore band. However, they do have deathcore tendencies. They also have clean tendencies that are very similar to the emo core that you hear in today's culture. And there's also influences from Eurotrance music. That is apparently what makes them unique in the niche. Now, with bands such as Born of Osiris, where there is a progressive deathcore influence or a progressive metalcore influence in there, you'll probably hear me say that that is pretty fantastic, mainly because it's kind of them breaking the mold. But yet, I may also say, and will say right now, that this Eurotrance fusion is just not right. It's something that doesn't make them all that unique. And you might sit there and say, well, if it's unique for one, why isn't it unique for the other? Well, because the progressive side is something that is not being incorporated very much by a lot of people. It's not a genre that you typically see bands being willing to dive into, mainly because progressive music has always had a very small niche following of fans, and it's not necessarily for everybody. Asking Alexandria fusing in Eurotrance, something that has been very, very big right now with dubstep, with happy hardcore, with the advent of electronic music, is something that everybody and their fucking brother is doing. So thus, it's not as unique. Get that through your fucking skulls right now. Just because it is what sets them apart from one niche does not mean that they in fact infringe upon a larger niche that's being done by more people, thus causing them to be less unique than those people they're trying to separate themselves from in the first place. Now with that said, let's get to the bare bones basics. 2 albums, a lot of breakdowns, clean vocals that remind me of any emo band like Alexandria that I've heard over the past 5 years. And the Eurotrance, meh. It's just a bunch of recorded nonsense, and I don't get it. It gives them the opportunity to be remixed by bands such as Cell Dweller, and it makes me think of Morbid Angel and their wretched, wretched idea of going into darkwave, but whatever. Here is where things get a little bit hairy for me, because for the record, deathcore has a very, very bad habit. And that is being self-reliant on breakdowns within themselves. They're self-reliant on that because it is a cheap, ugly excuse of how to get a mosh pit started at a concert. And that's fine. It is great to have that kind of electric energy. It is great to be able to cause that kind of electric energy at your event. But on CD, that doesn't do jack diddly twat for you, because whenever some jackass is listening to the CD by himself, what's he gonna do? Mosh with himself? That's gonna be really boring. It doesn't doesn't help. If you have to use cheap plugs and cheap ideas in order to attract mosh pits for many people, as opposed to enjoying the experience whenever you're by yourself just listening to the album, you're doing something wrong. Now, some may make the argument that that doesn't matter, the music is good regardless. I can see that, because that's your opinion. However, other bands are able to create a mosh pit atmosphere without having to directly signal it with the oncoming breakdown. For example, if you took a band such as Overkill and had them play their song No Lights from a couple of years ago, by the time the main part of that song hit about 40 seconds in, the place would be going insane. Listen to a lot of folk metal. You might not necessarily get a mosh pit, but you are going to certainly get one rowdy motherfucking crowd, especially if it's bands such as Coverkillernation or Alexandria. Take a listen to death metal. Death metal doesn't have to use breakdowns. All they have to do is thrash your fucking face off with death metal riffs, with glottal noises, and just absolute ridiculous blast beats. And that whole entire crowd is going to go into a frenzy as though they're all cannibals, and all of a sudden, a busload of children showed up that looked extra tasty. You do not need to be self-reliant on that, and this band falls right into the same trap. The mediocrity side comes into the fact that there is very little that is truly unique about this group. The mediocrity comes into the fact that while there is some technical proficiency that takes place, it is something that is not uncommon. It is not uncommon these days for things to be a little bit technical, mainly because music went through a pattern where things were entirely too simple. The kids and the people that were trying to form bands at that time started to take notice and realized that there was a thirst and a desire for there to be a little bit more going on. The problem with that is that now there is a lot going on and everybody's doing it, so it's all starting to blend together again. So trying to avoid a trend caused them to start a trend all over again and become part of the trend and become lost in the trend. Did you follow that? Because I did amazingly, and it's just terrible. Slipknot and Asking Alexandria, the two greatest things to ever happen to music. Slipknot is a poor man's death metal band. I'm going to say that again. They are a poor man's death metal band. Now I know they do all this other crap, they do clean singing, blah blah blah, and I get that. Maggots are just intolerable whenever they are of the extremist variety. Just like Christians are intolerable whenever they are extremists, because they take everything way too far, and if you actually boast or boister an opinion that is right in opposition of theirs, they do not even want to listen to you, and that is a problem. I will listen to you if you have great ideas and reasons why Asking Alexandria is a fantastic band. But to me, they are a poor man's second-generation metalcore band that focuses too much on the deathcore tendencies and also focuses way too damn much on trying to be unique whenever they are in fact pushing themselves even closer to the boundaries and to the post borders of the commonplace now musically. This band's fans don't piss me off mainly because most of them tend to be open-minded. Most of them. Those of them who are not, I don't get you. Mainly because you're worshipping mediocrity once again. Every single goddamn time I do one of these, it seems like that's what I'm saying. You're worshipping mediocrity, and nobody seems to listen. But that's okay. That's alright. I can understand it. What more can I say? What more can I do? There isn't any more that I can do. Do I have to fucking shit my pants and then drag that around in a circular fashion and then piss in the middle of the circle and then do some sort of funky piss shit dance? That way the gods will just be like, okay, never mind, music is no longer going to be this fucked up? No, I can't do that. Just the same way as you can't kill a horse and then stick its head on top of a cheetah and expect the cheetah not to be like, the fuck are you doing? Asking Alexandria's music, to me, just sounds like a lot of noise. Coming from a person who listens to everything from Xasthur to the most hardcore of black metal to the most ridiculous death metal, from drone to indie to rap to anything, that's something. I have never been a fan of bands that have taken those glottal lows into emo soaring vocal clean highs. And the reason for that is because the extreme is not the problem. The problem is what it's associated with and the ridiculosity of it. Everything about this just seems to be oversaturated with layers that don't need to be there. Pick one, stick with it, and stay with it, and try it. You do not need both. In a way, what this means to me is that this band, their identity is to try to be exactly what people want them to be. They want to be this band that is able to deliver those guttural lows, those death metal vocals, for all those little hardcore kids that think they know metal. They have to deliver those emo highs for all of the hardcore kids or the emo-core kids that don't want to take the leap. That way they have something that they like. And then the Eurotrance are for all the other people that just want to listen to something hard and heavy and claim it to be the hardest and heaviest thing that they have ever heard. While that statement may be true for some people, it certainly isn't the hardest or heaviest thing you'll ever hear. That's for damn sure. This is another one of those bands that has forged themselves as part of this trend that's going on of deathcore and just ridiculous core and nonsense core, whatever you want to call it, core, porn core, fuck core, shit core. It's shit core. It all sucks. These are bands that will be irrelevant in a few years. They'll be irrelevant because of vest metal, whatever the balls that is. It'll be irrelevant whenever the next trend comes. It is all cyclical. The only way that this band is going to be able to make a name for themselves for years to come in this circuit is going to be if they decide what their identity is and stick to it. If they don't do that, if they try to continue to be what everybody wants them to be, they may get sales, but they risk abandonment of fans, and they risk never having a true identity. That which I have listened from this band has been ridiculous. That which I have been associated with this band has been monotonous. There is nothing in here that I actually enjoy, except, surprisingly enough, unlike Slipknot and their maggots, the fans. Asking Alexandria fans, I will give you credit. For the first time in a long time, I've been able to do this series, and I have not had to mention you guys and say how annoying that you guys are. I made that one subliminal crack earlier in this video, but that is such a rarity that I need not really even classify or count it. You guys are honestly very cool people to talk to. You guys are not necessarily up this band's ass. You're high on them, but you're not up their ass. And most of you will actually give other music a try. The lone exception, the younger ones. But that's okay too, because you guys just think you know everything because you're 13 and 14 years old. One day life is going to smack you real hard across the face with its dick, and you're going to wake the fuck up. Asking Alexandria? No. I don't see this band being relevant in 5 years. Maybe not even in 2 or 3. This third album that's coming out later on this year, you might as well soak it up and revel with it. Because sooner or later, the times catch up with us all. This is another band, another trend, another year, another death. And that's all that there is to say.